I guess Wargaming have just pushed selling us tier 8 premium tanks as far as it can possibly go, and the tier 9 reward tanks might be the first step in the line towards what might eventually be tier 9 premium tanks. Well, that happened a lot quicker than I thought. Now, I predicted that tier 9 premium tanks were going to go into the game because of Wargaming changing Frontline, one of their most popular game modes of all time, to incorporate tier 9 vehicles as well. I said this last month on July. I don't even know what month it is. July the 15th. And it's an obvious step for Wargaming if they want to try and milk the World of Tanks player base as much as they possibly can. Tier 8 premium tanks are as old as World of Tanks itself. Originally, when the game was first released in 2010 in Russia and in 2011 in the European and North American regions, you could get a tier 8 premium tank such as the Mutant, the M6A4E1 as a founder's pack if you had pre-purchased the game and bought like about $50 to $100 worth of gold. Since then, for the subsequent 10 or 11 years, depending on what region you played, tier 8 has always been the pinnacle of tanks that make credits inside the game. That is going to change this Friday, as Wargaming will be putting in the first tier 9 premium tank, which will also be powered by Sabaton. Now, Wargaming have collaborated with Sabaton before by putting in a Swedish clone of a Centurion, which was embellished with all of the Sabaton logos and named after one of their most famous songs, Primo Victoria. Now they're going to be back at it again with the Stridsvagn K, which is pretty much the hull of a Kranvagn topped off with a Centurion 7-1, which we can clearly see here on the TanksGG website with the Stridsvagn K clearly having the same hull as a Kranvagn and having an almost identical turret to the Centurion 7-1. Now, is sticking the turret of a mediocre medium tank on the hull of a Kranvagn tier 10, which is not really renowned for its hull, really going to work at tier 9? Well, that's something that I'd like all of you to come back here on Friday and see for yourself, as I'll be releasing a full tank review on the Stridsvagn K as the availability to purchase it goes live. As it stands though, unless Wargaming significantly change the statistics of this vehicle, I don't really see it being an incredibly good tier 9 tank. But when you think about it from a monetization perspective, that makes complete sense. This vehicle will sell massively because it's a first tier 9 tank that is premium and has all the benefits of making fat credits at tier 9 where the matchmaking is very convenient. And so why would they release an incredibly powerful vehicle at tier 9 when they have the opportunity, as they have done at tier 8, to release better and better and better and better tanks over the subsequent years? Because realistically, they don't want you to just buy one tier 9 premium tank. They want you to have a lot of them in your collection. That is how Wargaming have managed to sell a lot of premium tanks, tons of them when you think about it over the years, by just upping the ante of how good they are. And we've seen that recently with the recent release of the Czechoslovakian tier 8 heavy tank, the Skoda T56. Now, what is incredibly terrifying about the Stridsvagn K for me is that, as you can see here, that this vehicle is going to make bonds as if it was a tier 10 vehicle. That was something that all vehicles used to be able to do at tier 6 plus if they won battle hero medals. Wargaming took all of this away and they wanted to make bonds specifically a tier 10 currency. The Stridsvagn K is going to make bonds as if it was a tier 10, meaning that one of the most important currencies in the game, and one that just makes you better at the game because you can get bond equipment for all of your vehicles, is now going to be behind a premium wall if you want to not only make all of the credits to make yourself better at the game, but also to have all of the bonds to make yourself better at the game. Yeah, I think this is a very dubious decision. I think the credits would have been more than enough, but more importantly, I just don't think that we needed to have premium tanks at tier 9. With all of the reward vehicles going into the game, and now it feels like everyone's got a Char Future 4, everyone's got a Concept 1B. Well, that might be a bit of an exaggeration because it was only available in ranked. It doesn't feel as if tech tree tanks actually make up the majority of the matchmaking at tier 9. All of you who have played tier 8 out there will know that there are hardly any tech tree tanks in the majority of your tier 8 games. It's all premium tanks, it's all reward tanks. And that makes it so much harder to be able to play your tech tree vehicles because everybody has a 5 skill crew. Everybody has all of the credits that they possibly need to spam those gold rounds or to use premium consumables. And for me, the main worry that I have about this vehicle, apart from the bonds, is that how many credits is this thing going to make? Is it going to make more than tier 8? Because as many of you, or hopefully all of you will know, premium tanks make more and more and more credits the higher the tier that they are. So it'll be very interesting for me to see what kind of credit coefficient or multiplier the Stridsvagn K has, because if it's significantly higher than the coefficient at tier 8, then this vehicle is going to set a new standard for being able to make credits. And you can be sure that you're going to see a lot of these appearing in next month's front line. A lot of players weren't playing their tier 9 tanks because their tier 8s were more competitive, at least with regards to making credits, and they were foregoing the ability to play tier 9 tanks. But everybody who purchases one of these vehicles is now going to have the luxury of both worlds. Maybe they're even going to be able to make bonds in front line by playing your Stridsvagn K as well. Now, as it stands with the statistics of the Stridsvagn K, which are not the best, this vehicle isn't going to be going into the game and breaking the matchmaker. But I'm not concerned, as somebody who has played World of Tanks for 10 years, at what it's going to do to the matchmaker now. I'm thinking about what happens when certain players who purchase this vehicle are going to have more credits to be able to have a bigger economy, are going to have more bonds to be able to create more power players, which basically forces some of the more casual players to be less competitive. And also, more importantly, what happens in the future when the Stridsvagn K, which maybe starts at this from a competitive level, gets topped up by the next tier 9 premium. And then maybe over the years it will become a case where tier 9 tanks, premium tanks, are significantly better than their tier 9 tech tree counterparts. Tier 9 for me is probably one of the most fun places to play World of Tanks. It's a last bastion of fun inside the game for many players. Vehicles like this should be immensely concerning. Not this one in particular, but it sets a new precedent for what Wargaming are probably going to be able to release in the subsequent years of game development that could become massive imbalanced issues because Wargaming are powerless in their ability to be able to nerf premium tanks. They can't nerf them since the Type 59 outrage and the Super Pershing outrage. For all of you who don't know what that was, back in the day Wargaming realized the Type 59 and the Super Pershing were too good and they were destroying the matchmaking, and they actually nerfed them, and they gave players the opportunity to be able to refund them if they weren't happy with their purchase. Maybe there was some kind of a lawsuit threatened that somebody purchased a vehicle for real money instead of for gold, and that Wargaming changed the statistics. And so Wargaming since have never nerfed a premium tank, irrelevant of how overpowered it is. I'm looking at you, Borask. I'm possibly looking at you, Skoda, as well, that just went into the game recently. Maybe the EBR-75. Everyone's got a vehicle that they really don't like and ends up really detrimental in the matchmaker. But Wargaming are powerless to do anything about it, which makes it very dangerous with the initial statistics when they put a premium tank in the game. Imagine the dilemma at Wargaming. They have their marketing and monetization department saying, put it in overpowered so we make a fat payday. And then you have their balancing department realizing that if they put the vehicle in too good initially, that there's no way to be able to draw it down, and it will have a detrimental impact on the ability to just enjoy and also be competitive inside World of Tanks. Personally, I really don't like the idea of tier 9 premium tanks going into the game for all of the reasons that I have outlined. However, let's be honest, I feel like Wargaming have definitely saturated tier 8 with countless numbers of premium tanks that a lot of people like me were purchasing, and then, full disclosure, Wargaming give them to me for free so I can be able to review them all for you. But I know for certain that there are tank collectors out there who are probably going to be sitting there looking at the up to 93 tier 8 premium tanks in their garage that they may have spent 20, 30, 40, $50 on. Each of them now thinking, are my tier 8 ones not going to be as good as these new tier 9 ones going into the game? The answer is no, they're really not, because they're not going to earn the bonds that the tier 9s ones do. And to all intents and purposes, the tier 9 vehicles are going to have that lovely tier 9 matchmaker to play against all of the tier 8 premium tanks. And also, they might have a better credit coefficient, although I'm not going to sensationalize that because I haven't played the vehicle yet, and I will not be able to tell you how good the vehicle is for making credits until this Friday. Fortunately, however, for all of you who have a lot of time over the next few days, this vehicle will be part of a mission marathon beginning on Friday, and I'm going to try and release a video tomorrow letting you know exactly how difficult it will be, and also giving you advice for what kinds of tactics you want to use to be able to get through all of the different stages. But once again, this video and all of the concerns that I have brought up are not specifically about the Stridsvagn K. They are about this is opening the plug and setting a new standard and a precedent inside World of Tanks that tier 9 premiums are most likely going to be the future. It massively changes frontline. It massively changes the prospect of what tier 9 matchmaking might be like in the future. And also, very importantly, it undeniably changes the way that bonds are going to be generated by players. Previously, people would either have to use events to be able to get them, or alternatively, they'll have to grind their tier 10 tanks. And quite often, when you grind tier 10 tanks, you have to make the sacrifice of not also having the luxury of making credits. Now, if you get to play tier 9 premium tanks, which are new, everybody's going to have to buy them all over again to be able to get all the bonds, to be able to get all the credits, to be able to get all of the bond equipment, to make you better than everybody else. It just frankly makes the game more pay to win. As I've been talking about recently, bond equipment, bounty equipment, it all just increases the disparity between the players. And now putting bonds behind a tier 9 paywall further cements the prospect that World of Tanks is undoubtedly a pay-to-win game. And so, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video, or you just thought it was interesting or informative. If it was, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And just a reminder, the release schedule for the next few days will be, I'll talk about the mission marathon tomorrow to let you know exactly how hard it's going to be and give you my tips and tricks for it. And most likely there's going to be a full tank review of the Stridsvagn K on Friday. So if you want to know all about the opportunity to get and then about the actual tank, then stay tuned to the channel over the next few days. And let me know in the comments what you think about the prospect of tier 9 premium tanks. Are you a player who's worked really hard to be able to get tier 8 premium tanks, and you're demoralized now that you're going to have to spend more money or invest more time to be able to get more tanks just at a higher tier to remain competitive in the game? Or do you think that it doesn't really matter too much and this is a great opportunity to have more fun at a higher tier? And also, what about the players out there who don't really feel comfortable playing tier 9? How do you feel about the prospect of you being encouraged to jump up a tier and play somewhere that maybe you're possibly not comfortable? Because as Wargaming say, you want to get more, more, more.